Team Bugatti has just settled on a preferred engine configuration for their newest supercar. The question they now face is how to wrap it in a beautiful exterior.
A new and next Bugatti is not done like that, with a finger snap. It occupied me day and night. Obviously, in a designer's head is, what's next?
Achim Anscheit is the man tasked with reshaping an icon and keeping a brand alive.
I worked on this car for more than 10 years, and there were various proposals that I did here in the studios. Hundreds of sketches and models that we did. It was a big part of my life. It was a big gamble on my career as well.
Achim's path to a pen doesn't begin with art, but rather an education in the pits.
International field of crack motorcycle racers gets off to a fast start.
My personal theory is that you come to car design from two ways. Either your parents are architects, designers, or artists in the broader sense, or you come with a motor virus. My father was a motorcycle racer in the 60s. I grew up in the pit lanes of the Grand Prix world.
Most car design is intended to help sell the machine. Inside the Bugatti design studio, the focus is a bit different. It has to be when you're defining a machine intended to blast well past the 400-kilometer-an-hour barrier.
Everything starts with a lot of thinking, but the thoughts are best expressed by sketchwork.
Once the team defines the car on paper, it's time to move it into the digital world.
So I think we started with the negative flicks, right?
Eventually, you still need to touch and feel the machine. So an artisan sculptor creates a full-size clay model. Each panel is lovingly and painstakingly worked until it's perfect. The artistic lines need to look good, but it's the path air travels around the machine that's critical.
For a car to go over 400 kilometers an hour, you need to carefully consider the aerodynamic flow around and through the car.
Funneling clean air sounds easy, but it's not. As a vehicle is pushed forward, it creates turbulence. The more unsettled the air becomes, the less energy it contains. And the W16 power plant needs a massive amount of high-energy air. So, the team turns to Dallara, one of the most famous names in motorsports. If you've ever watched the Indy 500, you've seen their aerodynamically tuned chassis in action.
Here we are in the Dallara's wind tunnel, where we test a 40% scale model, trying and understanding the aerodynamic behavior of the car.
The engineering firm starts in 1972, and their early racing success crystallizes the notion that they can harness the wind.
The wind tunnel has a fan which produces over 1,000 horsepower. This pushes the air towards the model.
Dallara's tunnel can generate wind speeds up to 200 kilometers per hour. It's a far cry from the Chiron's eventual top speed, but fast enough to determine where the cleanest air lives.
Inside the model, we have a balance which measures the forces. And we have up to 250 pressure channels that we use to acquire the data.
The relatively tiny scale model helps aerodynamicists measure airflow around the car and even inside it.
It's difficult to keep a car on the road when you go above 400 km per hour. Just compare that an Airbus is lifting off at around 280 kilometers per hour.
The team discovers that the air that wraps around the top half of the car arrives at the intakes with 95% of its pressure intact.
It gets sucked and dives into the air intake here, leading directly down into the engine compartment.
The technical insight leads to a distinctive design solution.
It's one of those sort of eureka moments when you realize that the technical necessities are actually driving you towards a design solution that is unique. It's almost like there's a certain inevitability in this kind of design.
This is probably the best indication and illustration where you can see form following performance at work.
Once the team solves how to get the cleanest air into the car, they face the next critical task: how to take it away once the engine is done with it. The quest to pull air out of the engine compartment leads to the striking cut-off rear end.
Aber wir haben eigentlich gefunden im Windkanal, dass wir nur durch das untere Drittel vom Stoßfänger, wenn wir da Druck ablassen und in die Seite reinpusten durch das Radhaus, das reicht eigentlich schon als der Effekt, den wir suchen.
Und gibt es sowas Ähnliches auch für hinten eigentlich?
Naja, wir haben ja so eine Art Venturi-Effekt.
The cut-off rear end is conceptually similar to placing your thumb over the end of a garden hose when the water's turned on. As the surface area decreases, the pressure increases, while also creating a vacuum in the remaining water supply. The back end of the car works the same way.
It creates a sub-pressure zone directly behind it for 1.5 meters, and it sucks out all the hot air from this whole engine compartment here.
Channeling air around the 1,500 horsepower engine is just the start when you're trying to build the fastest production car in the world. You've also got to cool something more than twice as powerful.